delay's too bad, I will call in. Is it really bad, Kayla?
It's about 3 to 4 seconds. Yeah, I mean, we can make it work as long as we're aware.
Okay. All right. So I do have a delay. So that's the unfortunate part. I'm going to get going here because I want to be respectful of everybody's time. So we'll let a couple folks call in as we go. We'll get to them for introductions. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to do a couple quick housekeeping things, and then we'll run through introductions. And the reason I want to do housekeeping things first is because we have to be respectful of everybody's time. So really quick, if you are not speaking, I'm going to ask you to mute your microphone. If you walk away or put us on hold, make sure you mute us so we don't have to listen to your hold music. And you'll see that we have a whole bunch of members in this group, which is super exciting. But we're going to do introductions, and we're going to do them very briefly. So I'm going to ask everybody to hold their introductions to 1 minute. I know it's going to be hard because we're all really excited, but so don't be surprised if you go past your 1 minute if I cut you off. I'm sorry, but I've had the opportunity to sit in on a handful of meetings, and the introductions didn't work out well because people kind of went a really long time, so other people didn't get to talk. So I just want to be respectful of everybody's time. So again, if you are not speaking, I'm going to ask you to mute your microphones. And then we'll go around the horn. I'll just call you off as I see you in my screen, if that's okay. But I'm going to start here with the team. So first of all, my name is Tina Mudd. I'm the environmental manager for Granite Construction Company. I'm also responsible for implementing our corporate sustainability program, as well as a member of the Granite Climate team. So I'm a firm believer that the community, industry, and government can work together to leverage strengths and resources to attain sustainability. So from a personal perspective, I'm very interested in the circular economy as well as sustainable food sources. Professionally, I've been involved in extensive policy work at the local, state, and federal level. And so I will be facilitating this group. And the one thing that I would like to accomplish, really, besides creating a very collaborative approach to creation of our menu of options, is to make sure that we continue to align with the elements of sustainability, you know, being economic, environmental, and social, and that we don't give up one for the other. So we've got a super diverse group here, from individuals and NGOs to industry and government. And I think everybody's seeking collaborative solutions. So I'm super excited about that. So with that, I will introduce our co-chair, Susan Fisher, and then after that we'll let Kayla introduce herself as well, and then we'll go around the horn. So Susan, if you'll take it away.
Thank you, Tina. I'm Susan Fisher. I'm Senior Vice President of Government Affairs and Advocacy with the law firm of McDonald Carano. We're a statewide firm here in Nevada, and we do state, local, and some federal work. And my interest in this is both personal, but I also have quite a few clients in the clean energy realm, and then also a number of other business clients who are also very interested in how to be more sustainable, as well as our own firm wanting to be more sustainable. So I really appreciate this, and Tina, thank you for everything that you've said. One thing that I would like to tag on to this, you know, we're the policy and the funding committee, so there's going to be, it's almost like sometimes I think maybe we should wait until all the other committees have finished their work, so they tell us what their ideas are, then we figure out how to achieve those ideas. But we're just going to be working in tandem with all of them, but need to be mindful of the other committees working as well, and what they come up with. So look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Susan and Tina. So my name is Kayla Alm. I'm with the Nevada Division of Environmental Protection, and I am here to really provide support to Susan and Tina, and as well as the other working groups, along with Brianna K. Susan, our Southern Nevada office. So together, Bree and I are representing NDEP to make sure that all the working groups have clear and definitive topics that they're discussing and that there's no overlap. So we'll be here as support. We do not have an agenda to push on you guys. This is your working group. Achieve what you guys would like to for sustainability and policy change. We're here to help support you in any way we can. So please let us know how we can be of help. Thank you.
Thank you, Kayla. Okay, so moving on, I just wanted to bring to your attention really quickly, the model that NDEP kind of provided to us was the Connecticut Coalition for Sustainable Materials Management as kind of a guidance to where we're going. And I thought they had a really interesting coordination statement. And I wanted to share it with you before we do introductions, just to kind of set the stage for where we're headed. And it states that we recognize that by working together, we have the potential to achieve economies of scale and send a strong signal for private investment and sector transformation. At the same time, we respect the unique needs and policy preferences of each participating member and the importance of flexible approaches. We recognize that each member can contribute in different ways through different measures to achieve our goals. And so I thought that was kind of a really nice opening statement of kind of why we're here and what we're working towards. And, when we talk about the menu of options, these are basically elements that we can work towards for Sustainable Nevada. And their group particularly came up with things like extended producer responsibility, food scraps and organics, increasing recycling, and unit-based pricing for waste. So those are just some of the items that they came up with. So what I'm going to do now, keeping that in mind, is we're going to go around the horn for introductions. And I'm actually, Kayla, I'm going to have you, if you don't mind, call on who you see on the screen. And I'm going to put up here, I'm going to share my screen so that you guys can see kind of quickly a little bit of a prompt for some introductions. And if you've got something else you want to say, that's fine. But again, I'm going to keep everybody to 1 minute for introductions, just out of respect at everybody's time. So here goes my screen here. Share, and Kayla, you let me know if you can see this.
I sure can.
But I should make it a little bigger, I'm assuming.
Individuals should be able to have the ability, as well as on their screen, there should be a slide bar where they can slide left or right, and it'll make the document or the people's faces larger or smaller.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So
Are you ready
want
for
to
the
call on them?
calling? Sorry, go ahead, Tina.
If you want to call on everybody, we'll get, I'll just kind of keep time and I'll leave the screen up for them.
Okay, sounds great. So up first we have Chris Peterson.
Chris Peterson, Director of Environmental Permitting for Comstock Mining, and I'm just here to see how industry can get involved in these efforts.
Cool. Thank you. And Doug Hamilton.
Hi there, I'm Doug Hamilton. I'm with American Battery Technology Company. I'm their head of policy. And we are, actually the exciting part is we just broke ground today in building our recycling plant in Nevada for lithium ion batteries. And we're very much concerned about keeping these lithium ion batteries out of landfills across the country. Currently 90% of them are going into landfill. It's an exciting industry, but obviously there's a lot of sustainable policy issues related to it. And so we want to help in that area. We tend to think that our process is one of the more green and sustainable processes for recycling. So, and we're working on transportation and storage policy along with fire safety and first responder protocols. Thank you.
Excellent.
All right, Luke Stewart.
Guys. Yeah, Luke Stewart. I'm Environmental Health and Safety Manager for Papco Gypsum in Las Vegas. I wasn't able to attend the first meeting, so it's kind of new for me, but I guess my main interest is kind of on the policy side. Been involved with policy and permitting for many years. I guess I'd like to accomplish more openness between industry and nonprofits and things like that, and just hopefully I can provide some information, some help.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Todd, welcome.
Ralph here at the Reno Tahoe Airport Authority. I'm the environmental program manager, and yeah, I'm interested in hopefully contributing and helping out with developing some cost-effective, effective policy to help enhance and promote all of our sustainable projects throughout northern Nevada, and particularly here at the airport. And also involved with some of the other committees, the organics as well as the waste reduction. So cool. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Good.
Wonderful. Brigid McHale.
Unmute. Bridget, I'm with NV Energy, and I'm an environmental advisor here. I'm working on our sustainability initiatives and trying to branch out from things that we wouldn't normally be involved with, just to kind of get a bigger idea of what of ways that we can contribute.
Cool.
I wonder if I apologize for mispronouncing your name.
Bridget is fine. It's a difficult name.
That's okay. All right, Dean Stanfill.
Sorry about that. I am off mute. My name is Dean Stanfill, and thank you very much, Tina. And I am the work for Universal Engineering Scientist, a primary interest in this group. I'm also the chairman of the organics group, and I think common sense policy regarding organics diversion, in addition to how we're going to fund some of these initiatives, is what's very important to me. And I think that the one thing that I hope to accomplish through this group is, again, help craft some common sense policy initiatives for the state. And also, I guess I already said I am chairman. I apologize for talking in it's kind of like the circular economy. I'm kind of giving the circular introduction. So with that, thank you, and I look forward to this group.
Oh, great.
Kathy Flanagan.
Hi, I'm Kathy Flanagan with the Southern Nevada Water Authority and the Las Vegas Valley Water District. I am in the Government Affairs Department, and I advocate for water policy on the state level. I also have 13 years of trying to acquire federal funding, so I just hope that something in my skill set will be of use to this committee, and I'm glad to be here today.
Excellent.
All right, Vanessa Robertson.
Yes, so I'm Vanessa Robertson. I am co-executive director of Envirution. We are a Nevada-based educational nonprofit that focuses on sustainability and energy efficiency and STEAM career development. And Tina, I loved your intro because our whole philosophy and mission and vision is all around our 3 spheres philosophy of people, planet, profit. So we love working with businesses to help connect them to their future workforce and let students and teachers and pretty much anyone in the community know that you can have a good paying job with a company that does good things for the environment and the community. And I'm primarily, my master's was in policy work. I thought I was going to kind of change the environmental world from the top down, and now I run a nonprofit and try to get the little student leaders to be those kind of champions for policy and leadership. And also, obviously, as a executive director, I do lots of grant writing as well. So hope that we can kind of bring everyone together and really get these students, which are our next generation, involved in some of these policy initiatives and get their voice heard, because they are very hard to ignore, which we like.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, we have someone on the phone with the last 4 digits of 8960.
Chris Lynch, and I'm the director of the Business Environmental Program at UNR. We're a statewide program and provide business advisory services on environmental compliance and sustainability strategies. I'm also chairing the sustainability working group, so hopefully we'll be feeding some ideas into this working group.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, and Linda Miller.
Hi, my name is Linda Miller, and I am affiliated with Reusable Reno. We are a group of friends living in Reno with shared environmental concerns, working together to seek environmental solutions for our local communities. And we are aligned with Upstream Solutions, whose mission statement and national campaigns are focused on sustainability and policy changes. And I'm looking forward to working with all of you.
Awesome.
Alexia Sober.
Hello, I'm Alexia. I am with Comstock Mining in Virginia City, and my interest is in both policy and funding, and I would add to that, education and public engagement. If I could accomplish one thing from this group, I'm just reading from the script here, it would be that there's, more communication and collaboration between, the private and public sectors. And that's what I have to add. Thank you.
Good.
All right, Suzanne G. with the City of Reno.
Of course, my other phone started ringing as soon as you said that. I'm Suzanne Groneman. I'm with the City of Reno. I'm the Sustainability Program Manager. And my interest in this group is both policy and funding, being responsible for kind of guiding the city through both of those. We do have some current funding opportunities, one that's undergoing a major renovation, and that's the CPACE program. So we're working on that one right now. If I could accomplish one thing through this group, it's really just to echo some of the others. Just, I feel like I know everybody, and then I join a group like this, and there's a lot of people I don't yet know. And so I think it's just making all those connections and finding those intersections. And then I'm also part of the education and outreach committee.
Good.
All right, Aster Gurma.
I am the founder of Nevada Green Institute and executive director. And the mission is to promote public awareness and discussion about innovative ideas, technologies, and best practice that support a sustainable future. It recognizes the individual as a key to sustainable future. And our project the last 10 years was sustainable education, community sustainable education, public outreach initiative. We have focused on increasing public awareness of sustainability concept, best practices. For the last 10 years, we have shared the research and survey findings with the public, supported the community and local organizations. Our work has a regional scope. We also built inclusive collaboration to harness the collective vision. We believe that this process equips the community with new knowledge and way of thinking to tackle the multifaceted economic, social, environmental sustainability problem in the context of interdependency. In this group, we are looking for, and also we hope our activity encourage public to support market creation for efficient technology, product, and services. We need to make solar power a viable part of the circular economy to overcome solar waste disposal. For this, we hope to achieve producer responsibility law for Nevada.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, Devin Middlebrook.
Afternoon, everyone. Devin Middlebrook. I'm Sustainability Program Manager at the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency up here in Lake Tahoe. Work a lot with climate on transportation and land use policy, so definitely interested in policy group, and I'm excited to hear so many private sector folks in this room. I don't think private sector and government talk a lot or enough, so that's one thing I'm looking forward to.
Cool.
All right, Lakshmi Albright.
Hi, yeah, I'm Lakshmi Albright. With Linda Miller earlier with the Reusable Reno initiative, our group, we are focused on basically, fostering more reusable specifically to do with plastics and single-use plastics. My main, one thing that maybe you would like to see maybe come out of this is, in addition to getting to know many different, all of you, to do more extended producer responsibility with plastic packaging and yeah, reusable economy. And finally, yeah, I'm also chairing the source reduction work group.
Very cool.
All right, Lauren Boytel.
My name is Lauren Boytel. I'm the Executive Director of Impact NV. We're a statewide sustainability nonprofit, not a service provider, but definitely more of a public-private convener, coalition builder, and strategy developer. My interest is more on the policy side, but I definitely think that they are not mutually exclusive. And I think if we could accomplish one thing with this group, it would be great to have a strategic triple bottom line policy agenda for the 2023 session and a structure established to advocate for it effectively. I am also signed up for the education and the sustainability work group, so I'm definitely doing some recon and gauging capacity and seeing where I fit best. Thank you.
Cool.
Carissa Bradley.
And I'm Carissa Bradley. I work with Vanessa Robertson here at Envirolution. I'm the finance and operations coordinator. I came on a couple of months ago, and previously I've worked in climate change and environmental policy, both at the local and most recently at the California Department of Finance. I was a part of the team that got to put together the climate resilience package. So I'm more interested in the funding, but policy and funding are our best friends, so I like to think I'm interested in both. Can't have one without the other, exactly. And then I'd like to, yeah, accomplish one thing. I'd love to see the state of Nevada moving more towards a sustainable economy and kind of bringing more of these progressive policies to our state. And then lastly, I'm not I'm not a part of any of the additional committees, but I think that the education and outreach one would be a great one for Envirolution to be involved with our K through 12 focus. Thank you.
Cool.
Noah Rotroff.
Oh, that's me. I'm Noah Rotroff. I'm with the Sierra Club. And yeah, just looking at this with my interest in policy, you know, obviously I think we're all here because we believe, you know, policy is one of the easiest, most direct ways to really have very effective and widespread impact, you know, when it comes to truly any initiative, you know, funding. I do, you know, I don't mind asking people for money, but you know, I think maybe it'll come a little bit more secondary to when we actually have a little bit more of a grasp onto what exactly we're looking to fund, but 100% something I'm 100% on board with. One thing I, you know, am very interested in with this group is, you know, me personally. I know we've all got our own beliefs in what's most important, what we want to accomplish, but truly, I believe it's really that commonality between our groups, between the members and organizations here that are really going to push it forward. So I'm personally very interested in knowing what everyone else actually wants to accomplish and what we can really come together on in any kind of specific initiative. And lastly, I am actually the co-chair with Chris, who spoke earlier on the sustainability working group. So the very general and large working group that we're putting together. But very excited to be part of this one. I think it's going to be one of the very important ones to getting all this put together. So very happy to be here and happy to see all your faces.
Excellent.
All right, and Jeremy Walters.
Hey, you don't hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I know I've had audio issues in the past. Jeremy Walters with Public Services. I'm particularly interested in policy. What typically happens is, some good intentioned folks think about policy and it trickles down to recycling and what we do in waste management, and here to really offer some true firsthand industry expertise on what we do as a processor. Hopefully help craft mindful, impactful policy that drives sustainability in Southern Nevada. So that's my particular interest. Funding is always helpful when it comes to education, which I am chairing the education and outreach group. I'm also a part of, looking at the list, every other group except for organics management. I do think that it's important for us, and I probably should be a part of that one as well, because if we're trying to do education and outreach, we need to understand what each working group is going after and how we can best translate that to the public side and make true change here in Southern Nevada. So looking forward to conversations and seeing where we get as a collective.
Cool.
Thanks, Jeremy. And just to touch on that, in January, we're going to get all of the working groups to come together to one large meeting to kind of give an update. So you guys will have an idea about what the other working groups are discussing as well. Don't worry.
Great. And then I also have a colleague. She's having some technical difficulties. Jessica Preston, you'll probably see her on this group in the near future. She's our wonderful environmental manager, a lot smarter than I'll ever hope to be. But yeah, she'll be on in the next one.
Great. I know she's the chair of the recycling working group. I think we have every chair represented here, so that's wonderful. I know. All right, a few more. Sue Jaycox.
Hi, I'm Sue Jaycox. I'm a founding board member of Great Basin Outdoor School, and we always try to work some sustainability, having a lighter footprint on the earth, into the activities and programs and education we do with kids, mostly elementary school kids, a little bit of all levels, but especially elementary school kids. We have fall break day camp going on right now, and sustainability just happens to be the topic for tomorrow. I think somebody's coming from KTMB as a presenter, but I'm interested in obviously education for kids, funding to help kids have the environmental education they need to understand, and have us as staff and leaders be aware and up on what sustainable policies and practices and things that we should be teaching the kids. I mean, we put in our field notebook for the kids just recently, with the last printing, exactly what can and can't be recycled, because there's so much misunderstanding. And there was something, we want to be up on what's going on and what we should be teaching the kids about sustainability.
Great. And last but certainly not least, Brian Thornton.
I'm Brian Thornton. I'm with Citizens Climate Lobby, and our organization is focused on climate change and national climate policy. So part of why I'm here is to try to hook up with other community leaders and for that work. With regard to this specific working group, I'm interested in the strategic idea of circular economy, and how I've seen statements that could reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 50 to 60%. So I see this group as the one that can strategically focus on that kind of a policy. I'm also involved with the broader sustainability committee, which I hope will bear down a bit more on climate change. Thanks.
Great. So that's everybody, Kayla? Man, this is super exciting. This is a really diverse group of folks who are very excited. And I I will echo the fact that we are likely going to be a little duplicative just because, oh, sorry, that's my timer to make sure everybody stayed on track. I think the important thing is that we're not duplicative of the other groups, but supportive of the other groups. And so we're going to have to be very strategic about that. But I did want to share with you guys something here. I think I'm not sharing my screen anymore, right? You guys cannot see my screen?
Can see
somebody?
You.
Okay.
No, we cannot.
I just wanted to share with you, I don't want you to see my spelling errors. Anyway, I wanted to share with you guys some of the feedback from the survey you took in regards to this group. And I'm totally going to butcher this because this is like a paragraph of the 60 pages that were in there. But overall, the common themes from the survey highlighted a lot of topics for which we already have the working groups, right? Recycling, waste reduction, outreach and education, organics, management, sustainability. So, you know, we'll support those groups, but from a policy perspective, there was a really couple common themes that sifted through the top in most of the language. And one of it was encouraging change to existing policy that's counter to a sustainable future. So there's things like landscaping requirements that require a whole bunch of lawn in the desert, the lack of incentive for infill development to combat sprawl, promotion of composting, encouraging of waste reduction and recycling systems through local regulation, and then education focused on the policymakers, especially at the local and state levels. So not just kids, but educating our communities for the rule makers. And so one of the last themes that I thought was really interesting was a comment that came up a couple times, or more than a couple times, which is why I'm saying it, is that sustainability is not just waste and recycling, and that there was some concern that maybe our group needed to focus on something else because there was too much of that being focused on. So that being said, I just, you know, I want to be fair to all the groups that are doing that and doing a good job, but I also wanted to share with you what I gathered from the survey results. So, and I would maybe ask too if Susan or Kayla had anything to add to that first, and then we can kind of go around the horn and see if you guys would agree. Kayla's good. Susan, do you have anything to add to that?
I don't have anything to add.
Okay. And so I think we want, I mean, again, we're going to support what the other folks are going to be working on. And a lot of you guys are doing such great work that it's going to be quite an arduous task to try to collectively pull all that together. So I did want to know, I had a couple of thoughts, and I'll say this, moving forward, we are completely open to, if there's a change to the format of how we're running the meeting, or a way to convey messages better, whatever. This is really your guys' group. We're just facilitating it. So I want to make sure that we do that and I don't drive it too much in any certain direction. So based on the answers of the survey, I kind of came up with a couple of discussions. And so I'm going to open it up to the group, but some of the items I was curious about was if there's policy barriers that you guys are aware of that we can that we could work on immediately, and then what items are coming out of the other groups that we should keep on our radar, and then who our experts are and where's the data. Like, those are the things that were kind of rattling around in my brain. And the reason I asked the policy barrier question first is, you know, oftentimes government entities are the largest customer for a consumer customer. They spend a lot of money and they buy a lot of things. And my type of work, I've identified a number of whether it's building specifications or state specifications that limit us from doing things like using recycled materials or alternative locally sourced materials because they're written in black and white and there's nothing there to challenge those. So for me, that's my personal experience with barriers to recycling. So I would be curious, we've got about 10 minutes on this topic. So if somebody wanted to maybe address that issue first, just quick stuff that comes to mind as far as a policy or a regulation barrier.
So I'll jump in real quick. Just wanted to touch on something that you mentioned, right? And that's talking with policymakers, movers and shakers before policy gets proposed, right?
Yes.
I mean, a lot of these folks, they come to the table after the fact, they have something, and you know, they're no fault of their own, they're not a subject matter expert, right? So I think opening the door to these conversations before it becomes something that's legitimately on the table to go to the legislation, I think is paramount to drive sustainability. And, you know, one thing I'll take, you know, particular notice of is something that you said, you know, recycling, sustainability, those usually go hand in hand. And that's the first thing that people think about. And there are so many other facets to it. You know, I'd be remiss to say that I don't want to talk about recycling because that's my direct industry, but it is the low-hanging fruit, right? And there are so many other topics that blend into this overarching idea of sustainability. So I think that trying to defeat that barrier of, you know, doing I'm going to call it damage control, right? After someone's already put something on the table, they have an idea in their mind of, you know, what they think is going to be a good move for the state. I think maybe blending our industries and inviting the policymakers to see what we're really doing to drive the needle of sustainability, to help them make educated decisions on what policies they should be working on. You know, and one particular example was a handful of years ago, we had one state representative come to our recycling facility, and, you know, something that could have been impactful for recycling was, you know, plastic bag bans, right? But then they shifted to a bottle bill. And there's a reason that a bottle bill hasn't been enacted in nearly 10 years. They're antiquated systems. And there are things that if they focus their attention on, they could be truly impactful for the state. Now, again, that's just a small example of something that's particular to my world, but there are other facets of sustainability that should be a part of the regular conversation. So,
I think I mentioned this in the previous meeting, along with the bottle recycling when it's ground down to sand, that we as a construction industry could put that bottle sand into asphalt, but the DOT specifications in California prohibit it. So do you know how much asphalt we could make recycling sand? So that's an example of policy barriers that come to mind. And I see Susan had her hand up. Susan, you want to go ahead and then I'll grab whoever's next?
Thanks, Tina. Just to follow on what Jeremy said, I'm really glad that you brought that up, Jeremy. One thing that I was thinking that we would probably do as we progress along a little bit is, you know, if we're going to seek policy change, we're going to have to go out and seek bill sponsors. And so that's something that I would be helping with, and certainly look to others to help with. My job as a contract lobbyist, that's all I do is talk to legislators all the time. So we will have to have those people as partners to carry the bills for us. So when we get things winnowed down, then we will bring in some of those potential bill sponsors and talk to them, members of the agriculture, well, what is it called now? Environmental, it used to be agriculture and mining, but now it's just environmental committee. But there are going to be some of the other committees, probably commerce and labor, and possibly even healthcare committees as well, that would be impacted by this, where the bills, individual bills would go.
Okay, good. Sue, were you going to say something?
I just think that that's really interesting to have creative ways of, like the glass going into building materials. That's just intriguing to me, and the kind of thing I just love to hear more of. And knowing, what can have the biggest impact. We were doing training of our staff at Tahoe week before last, and one of the things that came up is how important policy is. Because the little things that kids can do, like turn off the water when they're brushing their teeth, or a little bit of recycling at home or something, those don't have the impact that bigger, broader decisions and policy can make. And that, supporting organizations that do things on a bigger scale, or supporting policies. I mean, we need to look at what's going to have impact.
Yep, I love that. I have some hands raised, so I'm going to go in order in which I think that they popped up. And so, Alexia?
Came up last, but I can go if you'd like.
I think you actually, on my thing, you came up first, but whatever. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say, in terms of changing anybody's mind about anything, I think as a group, we first need to really define, the scope of sustainability, and what is that to us as a group. Mm-hmm. And I think each of us, individually or with our particular companies or nonprofits, are speaking on behalf of our stakeholders, right? So I think that, really clarifying, defining, and then aligning on what are we talking about when we say sustainability? Because of course, recycling is sustainability, right? But generating new and different materials to prevent us from using our finite resources is also a method of sustainability. Yeah. I think that would be a really good place to start the conversation.
Does anybody that's on the sustainability committee, is that something you folks are working on? Or Kayla, is that something that the group in general is focused on, is kind of what Nevada's definition of and maybe mission statement is related to that? Or are they looking at our group to do that?
Great question, Tina. We actually have Chris Lynch, who is the chair of that working group here. So I would like to let Chris talk about how he would like to see that work between your two groups, if that's okay, Chris.
Yeah, great.
Sure. I think that's a question that we are certainly wrestling with ourselves, but we haven't had our first meeting yet. We'll probably have that on the 19th. And, I think that is one of the first things that I was hoping to do through our group, is just sort of define, what is sustainability to us as a working group, and what can we work on, in terms of issues. And so hopefully we could use that to feed into this policy and funding group.
Okay, that would be great. Yeah. I think there's a lot of moving parts, kind of like all the different spokes on the wheel hub, right? We're all trying to push in the same direction, though. That would, if you wouldn't mind, on behalf of this group, kind of keeping us up to date on your progress, I would super duper appreciate that.
Okay, we can certainly do that.
Yeah, good question. Aster, I believe you're next.
Thank you. Really, thank you. I really enjoyed this group. One thing we focused the last 10 years in, I'm specialized in sustainability, education, and development, and I'm economic development, sustainability development specialist. The thing, when we focus in policy, we need to have the public to support it. Always people should vote for that. Therefore, for example, for zero waste community, we need the city to have that program, because they can teach whatever, they can do things, they can attract the public to support the program. It will be easier to have regulations around zero waste, because the people already support the idea. You see, everything related to each other. The last 10 years, we conduct research, presentation in the university level, as a planner, as economic development. In the city we support, Carson City example, and then they started talking about to continue the discourse of what is sustainability. That took us 10 years.
Yeah.
So I am sharing with you always, when we think policy, we think lead by examples, the city and the state, big organization and businesses to support the idea and diffuse that idea to the public and feeding it, facts, and facts is important, and the benefit of that, the public can benefit out of that idea. So we need to work together this direction. Without that, without the public, we can't achieve many things.
I agree wholeheartedly. It's almost reinforcement of what Jeremy was saying. Instead of just pushing stuff down, we've got to, as a collective, bring the ideas up, bring them forward, and identify those barriers. It's a good point. Noah?
Hello. Yeah, so, I would say on this topic, just because I do feel like we have a lot of different areas, specifically that everyone individually feels is most important and trying to aim at. And it's something that we can definitely go round and round with all day. But I'm wondering, what's come to my mind is if it would be best to have a specific game plan of attack that would be to the group's strength. Because I see, I guess, three kind of specific areas that are kind of being brought up as ways that we can help. Specifically, something like constructive, where we're putting together an entirely new initiative, a new deal, building it from the ground up. Something a bit more destructive, where we're taking laws that already exist or initiatives that are already out there that are either harmful or could be doing more, or something that's a bit more consultative, which is something that I've heard of, before things even get to being voted on, like pointing them to experts or what the community feels is most important. So I wonder, I wonder how this group feels about maybe focusing in a little bit more on like one of those areas of constructive, destructive, consultative, to a bit more like focus in on where we can be the most effective, rather than an issue which truly can expand out.
No, you're absolutely right. Because of the wide breadth of things this group could take on, it's going to really be like eating an elephant to focus down on where we can start. It doesn't mean that we can't build on that in future years, right? In my mind, this is going to be an iterative process that we're going to keep going through as we get better. And you kind of hit the nail on the head of what I'm struggling with right now as the chair is the focus, because we could do 50 different policy things by the end of the day if we all wanted to throw them out there. So my thought, thank you, I didn't think about the constructive or destructive portion, which makes a lot of sense. What my thought was at the end of this meeting, we may do another survey and narrow down what we've discussed here and try to get a little bit more refined on our action items, because we would love for an action item to come out of each one of these meetings so that we are carrying the momentum and we're not just meeting to meet, but again, is going to be very difficult because there's a lot of stuff to cover. So thank you for that. And I think that is beneficial to the entire group to think in that context about how we can continue to move forward. Suzanne? G?
No, couldn't get my camera on. So one of the things I'm hearing is kind of where we start, and I can't help but think of like us, we have our sustainability and climate action plan. So we've already done a lot of vetting, right? So maybe there just needs to be like a scoping process of like what's already out there. So we have the state climate strategy. Rather than recreate the wheel, there was a lot of policy, sort of what's achievable what's already in law. A lot of data went into that. So maybe it's more of like a scoping of what already exists, kind of like state climate strategy in the different jurisdictions. And then we take maybe recommendations from those and whittle them down and go, that's not going to work. And here's all of our perspectives as to why, or maybe we push that one through. It's possible there's already a strategy out there and we just need to hone in on it and figure out how you accomplish those things.
Sure. And, you know, that might be one of the things that we have to decide as a group on, you know, how we tackle that. Do we have another, just a specific meeting around that, or do we need to meet? That's the other thing we need to talk about, how frequently we meet to keep the ball rolling. So that is another thing that we could put on there. How would you, with a group like this, because we're all remote and we're all very different in our backgrounds, how would you folks suggest you'd like to see us tackle kind of putting together a more pointed strategy based on the resources available? I'd be curious on your input with this type of group, how you would see that happening. Anybody?
I mean, for me, I kind of envision like almost like a scoring matrix, because we do come from different perspectives. Something that I think is super duper important to move the needle, someone else is going to be like, because or maybe they're more technical or they're more, so I don't know if there's a way to put even together, like you said, a survey, but make it more like, I say matrix because I live in the world of matrices, but like scoring priorities, defining like what are our areas, are we talking, waste, are we talking air quality, energy and atmosphere, what are we talking, and kind of scoring that.
Yeah, and actually that comment supports kind of the survey data we already collected from all of you folks. There's a lot of information in there, and so maybe us kind of pulling that together coupled with the state climate strategy, we could see how those align and where we could focus our priorities in that regard. Susan Fisher, did you have an addition?
To Suzanne's point, the city of Reno has done an amazing job with their sustainability plans, and there was the question about the barriers, and that's something, our local governments we don't have Dillon's Law here, so they have to go to the legislature to ask permission for a lot of things. There's a lot on the sustainability arena that they can do on their own without having legislative authority. But if there is something that the local governments identify, Suzanne, maybe in talking with your counterparts with City of Las Vegas and other governmental entities also, we may be able to hone in on where you could use some legislative authority to help you with some of your sustainability goals as well.
I like that. You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking we could pull together again some of the survey data and some of the state climate strategy and just see again how they align. And then maybe when we find our priorities, we could do maybe some breakout groups for the folks that have maybe the interest or the expertise in each area to help us pull together the action items, while also keeping in mind the other 5 working groups are going to have recommendations too. So this is going to get pretty messy, but it's going to be layered. But I do like that alignment with existing strategies and priorities. I think that's good. Alexia, I saw you had your hand up too, and then after Alexia, Brian Thornton.
I'll just pass my turn. I think you all covered what I intended to say much better than I would have. Thank you.
Yep. Brian?
I guess I just wondered what is the relationship between this group and the other groups which seem to be more focused on specific topics? Are they kind of feeding into this group in the sense of setting priorities and then we're trying to turn those into legislative language? Or how do you see that relationship?
Kayla, do you want to answer that? Because you've answered that question to me, because I had the same question when we were setting up this group. So go for it.
Okay. Great question, Brian. I know, as Tina said, we get this question very regularly. I think it's going to be an ebb and flow. I think a lot of policy is going to be coming out of the other 5 working groups that they're going to funnel through this group. And the main reason for that is so that there's consistency throughout the entire state. I know a lot of the problems that we've seen in prior legislative sessions is that something comes out of the woodwork that no one knows about, and then everyone's, fighting for it, fighting against it. There's no cohesive communication and consistency around the different language. So yes, there's going to be, different programs and policies coming out of the other working groups, but also if there's one that, is very passionate, about having a certain policy change in this working group, that is no means, you can bring it up, something for the group to discuss. This first, 6 months of all the working groups is, as Tina said, we're going to be creating this menu of options. And that's just an exhaustive list of what is available and out there for these different municipalities, for the state to look at, for all policy change, really. And so it's, no endorsements of anything in particular. So if there's something that needs to be discussed, bring it up. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. And
yeah.
Okay.
I'll kind of give you an example of, the group that we modeled after. I looked into it a little bit just to see, what does this menu of options mean to us? Because the perspective is so broad. We have so much work to do, right? But for instance, a couple of the things that they've worked on was, establishing an extended producer responsibility program for gas cylinders, because they have issues with gas cylinders coming to, their waste facilities, or, a similar program for used tires because they're taking up landfill space and they don't have to. Packaging programs. A couple of other ones though that, kind of caught my eye was just that aligns with the survey results was working with the municipalities to provide better communications around the locations for proper disposal of things like batteries and tires. And a lot of folks do not realize that those options are out there. And so again, that goes to the education committee, right? But, those are some of their focuses. And, I think about it here in my job. And I think about how many times my team comes in and says, where do I dispose of this? Or where do I dispose of that? Just because, I'm the environmental manager, so I should know all those things. But when they come to me, it reminds me that a lot of folks in our community do not know those things. So that was an example of one of their focuses. And then, the other one is diversion of food scraps and organics. And so we have a group working on that. There's some really cool things that they're doing, but they are very focused. And so I do see a lot of our work focusing to support their efforts in order not to be competitive with the limited amount of people and resources that we have. And then secondarily, whatever those groups are coming up with, so we might want to focus on 1 or 2 major policy actions from our group and then support on supporting theirs, and then what's going to come out of that is we're going to try to identify funding streams and sources for those things. And, these groups also looked into some ways to fund things and also to, maybe do, pay your disposal fees based on your waste generation instead of flat rates, to encourage people to quit creating so much waste instead of recycling to reduce in the first place. So there's all kinds of things like that. So it can get very big real fast. So I think we should keep in mind, one, our primary responsibility will be to help maybe draft, support, and create collaboration around the policy requests that come out of our groups. And like Kayla said, work with our legislators and after our communities. So we're not coming up with these pie in the sky ideas that just turns everybody off and are not achievable. I think it'll be really important that we do that because we do have a diverse group of folks. And I think we want to set the standard for how we go into the legislature, right? We want to be the group that everybody looks at too and says, how in the heck did they get that done? We want to be that group. I mean, I know in the current climate, we would all love to be that group. So, so I think what we'll do, and we'll have a little more discussion here, but right now what I'm hearing is that maybe Kayla, Susan, and I get together and try to pick out the key themes that are aligned with the state climate strategy and the survey priorities. See what those look like and kind of narrow our focus a little bit. I will get feedback from the other committees on kind of the direction they're going and just get an idea of what their strategy is going to be moving forward and what they're going to be focusing on. So I think that'll be really important. And then I think that will really allow us to do what the second part of this discussion was going to be, is identify who the experts are and what data is available around these things that we're trying to accomplish, or what argument we're trying to make, right? I think that'll be really important for us. And we do know in Nevada, there's some data gaps. There's a lot of data gaps in Nevada. You know, and I think we've got a really good team here on this call that can kind of help us, if not close those gaps, help us identify resources or places to go to start looking to close those. So I think that might be another action item that's going to come out of maybe not this meeting, but the next meeting, is kind of aligning our priorities then with data available and data needed. Does that sound kind of kosher for you guys? This is, like I said, I'm wrestling an elephant here, and I just want to make sure that we keep the elephant on the right track. But I do want to ask, I don't want to leave us without any time to ask this question. What sort of frequency do you think we're going to need to meet in order to achieve these goals? Some of the groups right now, and I'm seeing kind of a bi-weekly meeting every other week is what I'm seeing out of the other groups. Maybe if you guys just want to type in the chat, like, do you want to meet bi-weekly, monthly, whatever, and we'll try to kind of to pull your guys' consensus together. What I want to be careful of, again, is not to meet just to meet. And two, I want to be respectful of everybody's time, because I know most folks here are volunteers, whether on your personal time or your business time. So I will certainly work with Kayla to do some work in the background to pull things together if it's identified by the group, so that we're making the best use of your time. I'm thinking, at first I was thinking monthly because we're all busy, but I'm kind of watching the other groups having to go bi-weekly. Is there any heartburn against bi-weekly? And maybe if we identify that we're rocking and rolling, we don't need to meet bi-weekly, we can change it later as we go. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see hands up. Let's go Alexia and then Astor, please.
Just to make a suggestion, if we're sort of taking all of the information and iterations from the other working groups, right, they're funneling their thoughts and their ideas to us, then I think if we meet monthly, that would give them time to collect their thoughts and ideas. That would give us sort of one thought dump, if you will, and then that would give all of us, whatever we're doing in that group, another month to research, write, do whatever we're doing. That's my thinking behind it.
That's not a bad idea. And what we could do to support that is maybe, Susan and Kayla and I can get together and take the items that they're working on and agendize them and maybe put a little bit of context behind them about what the issue or direction is, and then send it out to you folks as soon as we can, so you do have time to, pull together information or data or policy support, whatever it is. Maybe that's the direction we'll try to go. Again, keeping in mind, we're a working group. So if it doesn't work, we're going to change it. And I want to know that. So please do not ever be shy to tell me what your thoughts are on that. I thick skin and it doesn't bother me. So Astor, go ahead.
What you said, I support that. I want to say, but I want to add something, is that we need to define the scope of this working group. Therefore, so that we know when we have assignment to prepare research to conduct, we'll go around it instead of scattered ideas we focus. So that will help us. So the first thing to do is define it, the scope of the working group, what we achieve, what is our goal to achieve. And then once a month is enough, once we receive ideas, questions, intrigues, I'm a researcher, I can really contribute on that. And sustainability is my experience and education. I can contribute that, and others with the experience. I learn a lot from the group, so that you help us to focus, to use our time and energy and bring good idea. Sustainability requires new idea, innovation. You know that this is a new thing. It's not business as usual, so it's a support thing. So thank you. That will guide us. Let's be guided first, and then we will take over, because everybody's very smart here.
Yeah, it is a really exciting group. Everybody's so different and has such cool experience. I'm excited about that. So, you know, the 50,000 foot view of this group, right, is policy and funding. That's huge. That's very huge. To whittle that down a little bit, you know, as I mentioned, part of what we'll do is potentially help the other working groups draft policy and coordinate communication with the legislators. And then, you know, the different sorts of funding, whether that's from outside non-governmental type stuff or business and industry or through policy. That'll be a whole nother elephant. So it looks like we're building a zoo here. We're getting all kinds of huge elephants, but again, I do like that. So so I'm circling back to us narrowing our focus based on the state climate strategy and the survey priorities, and then further defining our scope as a group. I'm seeing those two as the first priorities. And then the third thing being getting in touch with the other groups to figure out what they're working on and what direction they're starting to go, so we can kind of set our sails. Those are the three things that I'm hearing right now that I feel like we can move on. And then maybe we'll do a little homework. Like, I don't know, maybe have folks pull together some resources for the things that are important to them, so that when we, or that based on the committees that are already existing, if you have resources, contacts, or funding, just kind of pull those together and put them in your back pocket. So when we start heading that direction, we've got that stuff available to us. And then I think, is there any just other burning action items that you are coming to mind for any of you folks that you would like to see done before the next meeting or on the agenda of the next meeting, other than those three priority items? Kayla, are you seeing anything in the other groups that's that we would be moving counter to or in support of at this point, just to kind of keep us in alignment?
Yeah, so most of the other groups have just had their introductory meetings. So they're just really grabbing a foot and defining their topic about what, you know, what it means to them and what they're going to move forward with. So as of right now, there's nothing extremely prevalent that I would say. However, the organics group, I know that their organics is a huge topic in Nevada. We saw an organics bill in the last legislative session. I'm assuming we'll see another one in the future, purely speculative. But I know that, you know, organics has been a very hot topic statewide as well as nationwide. So maybe start thinking about that would be my prediction.
Okay. You know, and I kind of had another thought as you guys were kind of, one, introducing yourselves, and two, just talking about your backgrounds and the interest. And, you know, ultimately with sustainability, right, we're trying to do what's good for future generations from an environmental, social, and economic standpoint. And I think from the industry perspective, when we hear or see sustainability, we sometimes have maybe some folks who aren't as well versed on sustainability and automatically think it's a hindrance to business. And so my ask for this group would be just to keep in mind moving forward when we're trying to link up NGOs and government entities and volunteers and business. How can we send the message, or what is the message that we need to craft around, okay, hey, big green construction. I literally say my logo's green. I don't mean to say it that way, but it's what's coming out of my mouth. Sorry. Hey, big green construction company, you too can be sustainable, right? And that's, you don't usually hear 100-year-old construction company and sustainability in the same sentence. You just don't these days. But we have a sustainability plan, and while I'm working with my team to implement it, I think of all these people who, when I'm giving a presentation to groups in my industry about sustainability, say, we build roads, we can't be sustainable. I think of those type of people and I think, how can I send to them the message that we're all on the same ride on this planet and we got to work together? So my ask of you guys is, how do we keep that messaging in mind when we tell people we're part of this group? What are we telling them? And I know that answer is not going to come today, but that's my ask of you, is how are we going to message our group and our effort? Because I do want it to go beyond this group when we're talking about it. So as Susan mentioned, we can start building that support we're going to need to carry this forward. So it's a total random tangent, but it's something that I struggle with frequently, and is part of why I'm here is to glean from you folks how to better teach my folks how we get there. So I know that was a big soapbox, but I appreciate the minute to say it.
Just 1 second. What you said, that is, I was wrestling the last 10 years. And in terms, because I'm economic development, I'm a planner and sustainability professional. So that's why I talk about sustainability based on interrelationship, interdependency, the community, the environment, and the economy. That all go together, so that we prepare for businesses. Sustainability is good thing. So the public, sustainability is good thing. We benefit from it, right, as an individual, other businesses, and also other world. We keep our planet clean. So I'm very happy for, we can prepare some sort of educational thing and then share with the public, with the businesses, but we should keep doing it.
Yep.
10 years, I told you, school district and city government, businesses, universities, and all this I have done it, and because I believe in it. We need to understand the concept is very important. We run also a survey to understand how people, they understood, I can share with you, understood sustainability. Most of them, they can't relate to energy and recycling only is sustainability. Right. And they don't know the government regulations, and then even they don't know Nevada Green Institute, others, they don't know.
Yeah.
So this is the very, very important things so that we can achieve, and education is important.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm just.
No, that's good. This is, it sets the stage for where we're trying to go, the more open conversations we can have. So, my takeaway is to get those 3 action items kind of bundled up for us to move forward. And I think what we'll do is probably set our next meeting. What I was looking on the chat, I was looking at 1 month from now. We'll set our next meeting, and I'll have all that stuff out earlier rather than later, so we can kind of mull it over a little bit. And then I'm going to go to Carissa because she has her hand up. And then I've got one last little question for you guys. Go ahead, Carissa.
It's just a clarifying question about, so the funding in our title, is that referring to we're making recommendations of how the budget should look, or what do we mean by funding in our title of our work group?
Yeah. I'm gonna let Kayla, maybe Susan clarify that, but I also think it's another elephant in the sense that it's not one singular focus, if I understand it correctly. Susan, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, Tina, and I'm glad you brought that up, Carissa. So there are a number of different ways that things that we're going to be doing would be funded. One could be, for instance, if it's recycling batteries, is there a surcharge at the manufacturer or on the car buyer or phone buyer or whatever device it is that's using lithium batteries? Is there a surcharge on that helps pay for the collection and transport and that sort of thing? Is there funding that could come through the state budget, perhaps? But there always has to be some sort of something that adds into the budget. Yeah, and then you need to keep in mind, if there is something that has a funding mechanism, that will require a 2/3 vote in Nevada if it's a new fee. So that's something that we'll need to keep in mind, and that would be a little bit of a hurdle, but that's where you got to really work everybody. So, and it could be whether it's user fees, manufacturer fees, dealer fees, or just out of the state budget, a line item.
And I would also add, this is a creative group. Is there incentives for, hey, this group is diverting food waste to this hog farm, or these folks are diverting their whatever waste to Jeremy's facility, or, I just would like to think of that too. Like, how do we reward the people who are doing the right thing to send the message to others that it's cheaper to do the right thing than to pay the waste on the back end? So just another thought.
So you mean you want to use a carrot instead of a hammer?
Both. I'm a multi-tool user. I just think I'm really excited because I think there's going to be a lot of perspective in that regard, just having all of the folks that we do at the table. And I think it will be very, very interesting to see what we come up with, because I think there's a lot of opportunity here. And I know, source reduction and increasing recycling and all those things are important, and we've got groups working on them. So, maybe those ideas come from those guys. And I think we should likewise share with their chairs what we're doing, because we may have some ideas that spur, the direction that they go, or something they didn't think about that aligns perfectly. So I'd like for us to keep doing that. But Carissa, that was a really good question, because I was so focused on just figuring out how we're going to tackle this big elephant that's policy in general that I forgot to clarify the funding piece. Does anybody else have any other burning questions or clarifiers or anything they want to talk about? I would propose one other thing, and this is a little off the wall, but just because we have such a cool group of folks here, and I would maybe challenge my other groups to do this too. Maybe one day we set up a little Sustainable Nevada mixer, and we get on the line like we are here, and we all just talk about the things that we're doing without an agenda, without any of that stuff, just so we can get to know everybody else on the phone. So I'm going to get in touch with my other chairs and challenge them to set up a mixer with us. I don't know if you guys think I'm nuts, but I think it would be fun. I see some head shaking yes, and nobody shut off their cameras and left. So that's a good thing. Okay. That is everything that I had on my agenda for today. Again, our action items are to kind of dwindle down our focus and align our strategy a little bit, and make sure we understand what the other groups are doing so that we can define our scope a little bit. I will commit to you folks to having something together by 1 week from now so that you have time to chew on it before our next meeting. Is that that's what I'm going to commit to. And then I will also ask that, again, if you have any information whatsoever or any questions, or you want to reach out to myself or Susan or Kayla, please do so in the meantime, because there's going to be a need for a lot of work in the background. So I would encourage you to reach out to us, and we'll do our best to keep this bus on the road. I was going to say on the tracks, but that's the train. So it's late for me. We start early, so 4 o'clock is late in the day. Anybody else? Okay.
Thank you very much, Tina.
You're very welcome, and I'm going to say going once, going twice. It's wonderful to see all you guys, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yeah, thank you, Tina. Wonderful.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Yeah, it's the best.